I always thought trouble announced itself with thunder. Big noises, marching drums, the sort of warning you feel in your ribs. Turns out it can arrive wrapped in small things. A paper napkin, a dusty booth at the diner off Maple, and my son's quiet voice saying, "Dad, I saw Mom kissing someone." Ethan is 19, tall like me, with kindness he didn't inherit from the louder side of our family. He wasn't dramatic that afternoon. No slammed doors, no tears. He unfolded the story like it was a homework problem he was determined to solve without spilling ink. After baseball practice, he and a couple teammates hit the diner for milkshakes. While he waited on the check, he looked through the window toward Main Street and saw his mother, Jenna, leaning into a man neither of us knew. Not a peck hello, not a mistake. There was intention in it, the sort you recognize even from across a sidewalk. My first instinct was to tell him he misread it. I wanted to wrap the moment in bubble wrap and ship it into the ocean, but Ethan is not careless with what he calls truth. He described her floral dress, the sunshine bouncing off the coffee shop sign, the man's hand on her waist, and for a second my world became a thin pane of glass, clear, brittle, and loud with the hammer in my chest. "Did she see you?" I asked. He shook his head. "I didn't want to cause a scene. I thought I should tell you first." I thanked him for trusting me and sent him to his room, then sat on the sofa and waited for my daughter to come home. Lily is 22, a first-year teacher who brings home construction paper in her hair like souvenirs. She walks with surety and talks with a straight spine. When she heard what Ethan saw, her face did not crack. It set. The air shifted. The house we'd built on, inside jokes and backyard cookouts bent at the center like a board taking weight it wasn't meant to bear. "We don't guess," she said, arms crossed. "We confirm." It hurt that she was right. Jenna came home just before dark. She set her keys in the bowl, humming. I watched her hum die when she saw our faces aligned on the couch like a jury. I asked where she'd been. She said errands. I told her which ones, and she said the hardware store and the market. I asked if she stopped for coffee. She flinched. It was a blink, a heartbeat, but Lily caught it and folded it into her memory like evidence. "I met a friend," Jenna said. "A co-worker. It was nothing." "His hand on your waist was nothing?" Lily asked, steady. "Because Ethan saw you downtown. He saw you, Mom." Jenna went silent long enough for the refrigerator to click on. She looked from one kid to the other, and then at me. What I wanted, if we're collecting wishes, was a confession and an apology large enough to fill the living room. What I got was a story about stress and loneliness, and how the last year had felt like walking around with an empty cup. She said the man's name was Connor, a consultant who'd been helping at her office. She said the kiss shouldn't have happened. She said it was brief. She said she was going to end it before it started. She used a lot of words that tried to unwind a knot they couldn't see. I'm not proud of how my voice sounded when I told her she had a week to decide between counseling and Connor, between working on our marriage or ending it honestly. I wasn't giving ultimatums. I was giving the only boundary I still owned. Lily didn't speak, but I could feel her anger like sunlight through a magnifying glass. Ethan stared at the rug, counting the loops. That night I slept on the couch. The house hummed, pipes, a streetlight buzzing, the ice maker knocking its lungs. And I stared at a family photo on the mantel. New Year's Eve at the lake. All of us in silly hats, cheeks pink from cold. You don't realize how many promises are hidden in a photograph until one goes missing. Morning brought no thunder, just breakfast eaten in shifts and Jenna moving through the kitchen like a guest. She said she was going to take some time and think. She hugged Ethan. She reached for Lily, who stepped back. Jenna's face tightened, then went smooth, and she left with a suitcase she hadn't had the night before. We didn't chase her. We took care of what we could control. I went to work. Lily checked on Ethan between her lesson plans. We cooked together, measuring out silence like flour. When you've been married long enough, grief doesn't explode. It seeps. On the second day, my phone buzzed at lunch. A blocked number. The voice on the other end was the kind of deep that tries for friendly and lands on rehearsed. "This is Connor," he said. "Jenna told me about your little family meeting. I'm sorry your son saw something grown-ups were handling." I stepped into the hallway to keep my co-workers from hearing my heart rattle. "You called to apologize?" "I called," he said, Because I think it would be best if your kids stayed out of it. Emotions are high, people get confused, I'd like to keep things calm. By calling my cell at work? He chuckled. The sound was a small, polished stone. We're all adults. Let's be civil. I hung up without another word. I stood there counting the ceiling tiles because numbers do not lie. They sit quietly where you leave them. When I looked down, Lily had texted, "We should talk tonight. I've got an idea." Important note about my daughter. When she says, "I've got an idea," it's not excitement. It's a plan. She'd grown up watching me fix broken sprinklers and change out busted porch lights, and the habit of methodical steps had landed in her like seeds in good soil. After dinner, Lily spread a legal pad on the table and drew a square at the top. In the square, she wrote, Connor. Beside it, she drew smaller circles, work, gym, coffee shop, apartment. She'd done polite research, not snooping, not hacking, just social media, public records, the sort of search anyone could conduct while finishing a cup of tea. She'd found the consulting firm's website, a few photos, an address. More importantly, she'd found a pattern. Same coffee shop every morning at 8, gym on Birch 3 evenings a week, a habit of posting motivational quotes that made me want to lift the couch just to set it back down hard. What exactly are we doing? I asked. Nothing reckless, Lily said. We're not those people, but we are not letting him walk into our lives, hurt Ethan, and act like he did us a favor by phoning you at work. We set boundaries. We warn him off. If he won't leave, we make sure he understands there are consequences within the law. Ethan drifted into the room then, hovering like a question mark. I hesitated. He is our son. He's also an adult who'd had a front row seat to his mother's mistake. He deserved a say. So I told him we were going to find a way to speak to Connor face to face, calm and clear, and tell him he was not going to break our home. No threats, no fights, just a line drawn so plainly you could see it from space. Ethan nodded. I'm in. Only if you listen to me, Lily said. No hero stuff. We stick together. We leave if it feels wrong. We keep it clean. We ran the plan like a practice drill. We would start at the coffee shop on Wednesday morning. We would choose a table near the door. If Connor came in, we'd ask for a civil conversation. If he didn't, we'd follow to the sidewalk and try again. If he walked away, so would we. It sounded simple, almost boring, the way good plans do before life messes with them. What I didn't account for was Jenna. Late that night, she texted an address I didn't recognize and asked me to meet her somewhere neutral. I told Lily, who raised an eyebrow that translated to all the reasons this was not wise. But curiosity, like gravity, pulls. I went. The neutral place turned out to be the parking lot behind the Birch Street gym, lit by a single lamp and the wash of a laundromat sign next door. Jenna stood with her hands in her pockets, looking. Both like the woman I married and a stranger wearing her face. Before I could ask why we were in a parking lot after 10 on a Tuesday, Connor stepped out from the shadow of the building. For a second, I thought he had staged a play, and we were the audience. I told him we needed to talk, Jenna said quickly, eyes on me. I wanted to end it. Connor leaned against the wall like it belonged to him. We're all here, he said. Let's be efficient. I am not a hothead. My father taught me to fix more than I break, but a man who kisses your wife and calls your son kid on the phone tends to sandpaper your patience. I stepped forward, ready to ask him to leave our family alone, when tires popped against gravel and Lily's little car slid into a spot at the end of the row. Ethan climbed out on the passenger side. I told them to stay back. They didn't. We have never been a stay-back family. Connor's smile didn't reach his eyes. So the whole crew, he said. You brought backup. No, Lily said, voice firm. We brought witnesses. It was Jenna who cracked first. She said she had made a terrible mistake and wanted to fix it. She asked Connor to give her space and time. He shook his head, still leaning, still calm, like a salesman whose pitch had met objections before. We had plans, he said softly, a tone meant for her alone. Don't be dramatic. The words hit Lily like sparks. She's not being dramatic. She's being responsible. He glanced at Ethan. You're the son, right? Tough break. But this is grown-up business. Ethan didn't raise his voice. He simply said, "I'm asking you to stop." The sentence held something heavy, and it made Connor push off the wall and step closer, testing the boundary we'd promised to hold. I put my arm out in front of Ethan without touching him, a subtle fence. "We're done here," I told Jenna. "Come home. We'll figure out what to do next, but not here. Not like this." Connor laughed under his breath. "You think you can just rewrite the script?" Nobody saw the two men exit the gym's side door until they were halfway across the lot, two buddies finishing a late workout, toweling sweat from their necks, keys jingling. They looked at us, then at Connor, who clearly recognized them. He called out a hello, casual as a neighbor. "Let's go," Lily said to me low. "Too many variables." I agreed. I moved to guide Ethan back toward the car, but Connor wasn't ready to let the scene end with him off stage. He stepped forward, too close, too fast. Not a punch, not a shove, just presence, a baiting kind of crowding. My heart kicked hard enough to taste metal, and I thought, do not let this turn into something ugly. "Back up," I said. He smiled. "Make me." That's when one of the gym guys, a broad fellow with forearms like bridge beams, called, "Everything cool out here?" Not a threat. A question with a flashlight behind it, the kind of small-town intervention that sometimes saves a night. I saw Jenna's shoulders sag as if a wire inside her finally snapped. "Connor," she said, voice steady, "I'm going home." For a breath, the parking lot paused. A train clattered a few blocks away. The laundromat dryer buzzed. The street watched. Connor's expression lost its polish just for a heartbeat. Anger flashed, sharp and quick, and he stepped toward Jenna. Lily moved before I did, not aggressive, just there, a human stop sign. "No," she said. "You're not stepping closer to my mother." I had planned a calm conversation in a coffee shop. I had promised my kids composure. And I would have delivered it if the night hadn't gathered players and lines we hadn't rehearsed. In the space between Connor's decision and my next breath, something was going to happen. The gym guys had drifted closer, not menacing, just ready. Ethan's hands were at his sides, fists not clenched but possible. Jenna looked at her shoes as if a sunflower might sprout from the asphalt and forgive her. I made the only choice left that honored who I wanted us to be. "We're leaving," I said, loud enough for the men from the gym and the neon sign and the sky to hear. "Come on." We turned. That's the important part. We turned first. Lily shepherded Jenna toward the car. Ethan stayed by my side. I felt Connor behind us like an electrical storm you're not sure will hit your house. Then he called out, "You think this is over? You can't just—" A glass bottle clinked somewhere. A door slammed. The sounds of the town stitched together into a warning. I put a hand on Ethan's shoulder and felt him steady under my palm. We reached the car. Lily got Jenna into the back seat with the efficiency of a nurse. I walked around to the driver's side and looked back once. Connor had stopped at the spill of the street lamp. His face didn't hold a smirk anymore. It held calculation, a filing of names and dates and pride. He lifted his hands, palms up, the international sign for "not my fault." The gym guys watched him. The town watched all of us. We drove away into a night that hummed like questions. At home, Lily put a pot of water on, because tea gives your hands something to do when your heart won't be still. Jenna sat at the table and stared at the wood grain like she could climb into it and hide. Ethan took the dog out, because dogs still need what they need even when families bend. "Tomorrow," Lily said over the hiss of the kettle, "we do this our way. We keep it calm, but we make it firm. If he shows up again, we document everything. If he calls, we record it. We protect Ethan, and we make plans." I nodded, because plans were the only sturdy thing left. The kettle clicked off. The house breathed. Somewhere out there, Connor was likely telling his version of the story into the glow of his phone. Somewhere inside the same night, ours waited to be told properly. 3 days is not a long time, but it can hold a lifetime of choices. Ours had just begun. By morning, the world looked almost ordinary again. Sunlight spilled through the blinds, the smell of coffee wrapped around the kitchen, and for a split second I let myself pretend that the night before hadn't happened. But silence has a way of reminding you that pretending isn't healing. It's only postponing the truth. Jenna sat at the table, hair pulled into a loose knot, eyes rimmed with exhaustion. She looked smaller somehow, like her guilt had taken up too much room inside her. Lily busied herself making toast she wouldn't eat. Ethan scrolled through his phone, but wasn't really reading anything. I could feel all three of them thinking, now what? I broke the silence first. We're going to move forward, but on our terms. No yelling, no revenge, no chaos, just control. Lily nodded. I already printed a restraining order form just in case. We don't have to use it yet, but it's ready. She always had a plan. I didn't ask where she learned to be so strong. Maybe strength grows fastest in broken soil. Jenna's voice was a whisper. I'm sorry, all of you. I thought I was invisible in my mistakes. I didn't realize how much of a shadow they'd cast. I didn't respond. Forgiveness isn't a switch, it's a bridge, and mine wasn't finished yet. That day, I called a lawyer, not for lawsuits, but to understand boundaries. I wanted to know how to protect my family without crossing lines that could cost us more. He told me what I already knew. Keep documentation, avoid confrontation, and don't let anger write your story. Ethan, though, carried something heavier. He'd been quiet since that night, quieter than usual. After dinner, I found him in the garage, punching a heavy bag I hadn't seen him use in months. His knuckles were red but not bloody, his eyes fixed and far away. You okay? I asked. He stopped, breathing hard. I just keep seeing it. Mom with him, the look on her face. I don't even know what hurts worse, what she did or how calm he was about it. I stepped closer. You're allowed to be angry, but you're not allowed to let it own you. He nodded, but I could tell that kind of wisdom lands easier than it lives. The next few days passed in cautious normalcy. Jenna stayed home, helping around the house, trying to rebuild some kind of trust. Lily remained watchful, protective, quietly strong. And just when it felt like we might start breathing again, the calm cracked. On Friday afternoon, Lily called from her school parking lot. Dad, she said, voice tight. You're not going to like this. Connor was here. My heart froze. At your school? Yeah. He didn't come in. He was standing near the fence when I left, just watching. That was enough. We didn't need another warning. I drove straight to the police station, filed a report, and showed them the text messages Jenna had saved from him. Some polite, some not so much. The officer nodded, took notes, and promised to have a word with him. That night, our house became a fortress of togetherness. We watched a movie, laughed too loud, and pretended not to notice the fear lurking at the edges of our laughter. Jenna thanked me quietly for believing her that Connor wouldn't stop. I didn't tell her belief had nothing to do with it. I was simply tired of losing ground. Then came the third night. It was close to midnight when we heard the sound. Soft at first, like something brushing the garbage cans outside. Ethan went to the window, pulled back the curtain and whispered, Dad, someone's out there. I grabbed my phone and turned on the porch light. The beam cut through the dark, and there he was, Connor, half shadow, half arrogance, standing at the edge of the driveway. He wasn't armed, wasn't yelling, just standing there, looking at our house like it was a challenge he hadn't finished. I stepped outside, phone recording in my hand. You need to leave, I said calmly. He smiled that same practiced smile. Just came to talk. You lost that right, I said. Walk away. Lily opened the door behind me, phone
Moving
already
pallets with the
dialing
forklift.
911.
Normally,
Connor
I don't
looked
even
from me
check
to
my
her
phone
and
when
back
I'm
again.
working, but this
Something
time it wouldn't
flickered in his
stop ringing.
eyes. Not guilt,
When I finally
not
pulled it out of
rage,
my
just
pocket,
embarrassment,
I saw
maybe.
an unknown number.
A man realizing he'd
Something
pushed
told
too
me to
far.
answer, and the second I put it to my
The police
ear,
arrived
my
within
entire
minutes.
world tilted.
They spoke to him,
Sir,
checked his ID,
this is Officer
and finally
Daniels.
escorted him away.
You need to come home
Watching
immediately.
the flashing lights disappear down
My
the
heart
street,
nearly stopped.
I realized something.
Is something
It wasn't
wrong?
about revenge anymore.
What happened?
It was
my
about
wife?
reclaiming peace.
My kids?
When I came
Please
back
tell me
inside,
what's going on.
Jenna was crying
The
quietly
officer's
at the
tone
kitchen
was
table.
urgent but restrained.
Lily stood beside
Your
her,
wife's
hand on
boyfriend
her
is in your
shoulder.
daughter's room.
Ethan
I
leaned
can't
against
say
the
more
counter,
over the
jaw
phone,
clenched,
but you'll see
calmer
for
now.
yourself. Please
We're done
hurry.
with fear, I said.
Boyfriend.
We're not going to
Daughter's
chase
room.
him, and we're
I
not going
swear
to let
time
him chase
slowed
us.
down.
We
My
take
chest
back
felt
our
like someone had
lives
shoved a
starting
block
tonight.
of ice into it,
The
and for a
kids
second
nodded.
I couldn't breathe.
For
My
the
wife
first
had a
time in
boyfriend,
days.
and he was
Do you
in my
think we can
daughter's
really
room?
fix this?
The words didn't
I
even
don't
make
know,
sense together,
I
but
said
my
honestly.
instinct screamed at me
But
that
we
I
can
couldn't
try.
waste another second.
And we can protect
I
what's
dropped
left.
everything. Didn't even bother
Over the
telling my
next days,
supervisor I was
the
leaving.
small-town rhythm
I just
returned.
threw off my gloves,
Morning
bolted out of the
traffic,
warehouse,
the
and
smell
jumped
of
into my
coffee,
truck.
neighbors
My
waving
hands were
like
trembling
nothing had
so
ever
badly that
happened.
I almost dropped the
Connor
keys.
stayed away.
And when I finally
The
jammed
police
them into
report
the
must have
ignition,
done its job.
I floored it out of the
But what
parking lot
changed
like a
most
madman.
wasn't what happened outside
Every
our
red light
walls.
felt like a curse.
It was what happened
Every
inside.
slow driver in front of me was
We
the
started
enemy.
talking again.
My mind spun
Honest,
with images I
painful,
couldn't
hopeful
control.
talking.
My daughter
Ethan
crying,
forgave slower
some
than
stranger
Lily,
in her room,
and I forgave
my
slower
wife
than
standing
both.
by doing nothing.
Jenna worked hard,
Or worse,
not to erase
encouraging
the past,
it.
but to rebuild the trust
The
she
rage
cracked.
inside me built with every
3
passing
weeks
second
later,
until it was
on a
boiling
quiet
over.
Sunday, we
When I
drove out
turned
to
onto
the
my
lake
street,
where that old
my
photo
stomach
had
dropped.
been taken.
My
The
house
air was
wasn't just
soft,
lit up.
the water
It was
calm.
surrounded.
Lily
There were
brought a
3
new
squad
camera.
cars parked outside,
She said,
their
"Let's
red
take
and blue
another
lights
picture,
flickering
not to
across the
replace
front
the old
lawn.
one, but to
Neighbors
show
were
we're still
already
here."
gathering on their porches,
We lined
whispering,
up,
staring,
awkward, but
waiting for the
smiling.
drama to unfold.
The shutter clicked.
I slammed my truck
In that
into
moment,
park,
I realized
barely
revenge had
remembering to
never
kill
been
the engine
story's
before I
ending.
jumped out.
Recovery was.
My boots hit the pavement
And as
hard
the
as I
sun
sprinted
dropped
toward the
behind the
front door,
trees,
but before
I
I could
thought of
push
all the
past the
ways
cops,
people break
one of them
and
raised
mend.
his hand.
How families
"Sir,
bend,
wait.
but still hold.
We need you calm before
Because
you go in there."
sometimes the real victory
"Calm?"
isn't about payback.
I barked,
It's about
my voice
peace.
breaking from the force of my anger.
Weeks turned into
"My daughter
months,
is in there
and the
with some
silence
sick
that
man
once
and you
felt
want me to
heavy
be
began
calm?
sound like peace.
Move out of my way."
Jenna stayed.
The
but not out
officer
of habit,
hesitated,
out of choice.
then finally stepped aside,
She attended counseling,
but followed me
apologized
close,
without
his
rehearsed
hand
words,
near his
and
holster in
learned how
case
to
I
listen
lost
again.
control.
Lily
Inside,
moved
the house
into
was
her own
chaos.
apartment, but visited
I could hear
often,
shouting
always
upstairs,
reminding us
2
how
male
strong we'd
voices,
become.
one of them panicked,
Ethan started
the other
college,
angry.
more focused,
My wife's
less
voice
angry,
cut through,
carrying
high-pitched
lessons
and
no
frantic,
classroom could
but I
teach.
couldn't make out what she was
One
saying.
evening, as the
The
sun
sound
slid
drove me
behind the
insane.
trees,
I
we
bolted
sat on
up the
porch
stairs,
together.
cops on my heels.
No shouting, no
My heart was
pretending,
pounding so
just
hard I
breathing.
could feel it in my temples.
Jenna reached for my hand.
At the top of the
and for
stairs,
the first time,
I reached for my waistband
pull
almost
away.
on instinct.
I realized
And that's when my
forgiveness
hand wrapped
isn't
around
forgetting.
cold steel,
It's
my
choosing
magnum.
not to let the
I hadn't even
past
realized
define
I'd grabbed
tomorrow.
it from the truck
Life
in my
didn't
rush.
return to what it was.
I pulled it free,
It grew into something
the weight
sturdier.
grounding me in a
And
way,
though that painful
focusing
chapter
all
would
my
always be
fury
part
into
of our
one
story,
single thought:
it no longer owned
protect
the
my
ending.
daughter.
We did.
When I